Today's case brings us to a small town in the county Donegal, which is in the north of Ireland. And the case is about the strange events leading to the disappearance of a 6-year-old girl named Mary Boyle. The case is also known as Ireland's Madeleine McCann. It's also Ireland's longest missing persons case. Mary is now missing 45 years. How are you all? Welcome or welcome back. My name is Sean. I try to post solved or unsolved cases. If you enjoy, please subscribe. Now let's get into the disturbing disappearance of Mary Boyle. This case brings us to Donegal. It's a little town known as Cashelard near Ballyshannon. Donegal, it's known for being wild and rugged. It's also known for its beautiful sceneries, some of which are used in well-known Hollywood movies like Star Wars. There are beautiful sea cliffs with breathtaking white sand beaches. This brings us to the town Cashelard. This is where 6-year-old Mary Boyle and her family were staying on the 18th of March in the year 1977. It was on St. Patrick's Day. The whole family stayed in Mary's grandmother's farmhouse, along with her twin sister Anne, her mother Anne, her father Charlie and her older brother Patrick. They would visit their grandmother every year on St. Patrick's Day for a family member's anniversary. They were visiting from their home in Cashelard, a small town also in Donegal, best known for being the hometown of popular Irish singer Daniel O'Donnell. And this was a 2-hour drive away from Cashelard. At around 3:45 PM on the 18th of March, Mary was outside playing with her siblings and 2 cousins. This is when Jerry Gallagher, which is Mary's uncle, he decided to return a ladder he was working with. He returned the ladder to his neighbour's house, which was a 400-yard walk. It was through a bog field. And Mary, being the impulsive child she is, she decided to follow him. In tow, as happy as you like, Mary was eating a packet of crisps. She was wearing brown trousers, a knitted lilac cardigan, with her long hair tied back with a white and purple ribbon. And Jerry claimed Anne decided to return back, which would just be a 5-minute walk away from the cottage, but she never returned home. And to this day, she just disappeared. I know now it seems negligent, letting a 6-year-old walk back on her own, but in the 70s it was a different time. When you think about it, it's actually very easy to judge the standards of parents nowadays. But you have to put yourself in the shoes of a parent in the 70s and what it would have been like. The thoughts of a child being abducted, it's not something that would have ever happened back then, or that you would have heard of. This is Jerry Gallagher. The picture, it's not the best, but there's not a lot of Jerry out there. He is Mary's uncle, and he was the last person who's seen her. Jerry was a member of the political party Fianna Fáil. He worked as a charge hand in the Office of Public Works, and he maintained local rivers. It would be a half an hour after Jerry returned to the cottage as he was chatting to the neighbours. He immediately went to fixing the stone wall around the house, taking no notice if Mary had returned home.
And she quit speaking and I looked round and she was heading back in the other direction.
Anne, who was Mary's mother, she noticed that she didn't see Mary for some time, and then she ran out asking the kids if they had seen her. At this point, Jerry would have been working at the wall, and he would have heard Anne come out saying this, but he never responded, and he never said that Mary was with him a half hour previous, which I always found very strange. It was around 6 PM when the police arrived to the cottage, and the sun, it was already going down, so they had to work quick. It was claimed that when the police first arrived to the cottage, the Boyle family, they wouldn't allow them inside as they were too upset. Now everybody knows the first few hours when a child is missing is very key to the investigation. By the time it was nightfall, there was a couple of 100 people searching for Mary. Friends, family and locals all coming from Ballyshannon. The local army were also notified of Mary's disappearance, and they also came and assisted in the search. They would use their flare guns to light up the dark skies to enable people to search for Mary. The next morning, Mary's sudden disappearance was all over national news, and over the course of the next few days, the search efforts they levelled up. They drained a nearby lake and they found nothing. The police would use diggers to dig out soft, boggy land around the area, in case she had got stuck in the soft soil, but there was no sign of her. Fast forward to early May. It would be months into the search for Mary, and the Boyle family made the heartbreaking decision, and they decided to return home, back to their own house in Cashelard. Now Mary's parents, they went back and forth, but as the weeks and months went by, the search began to wind down. Over the years, the family, they moved on with their lives, well, as much as they possibly could anyway. Mary's twin sister Anne, at the age of 17, would have her own child, and she named her Mary. Mary's dad would die, unfortunately. He passed away in a fishing accident off the coast of Donegal in 2005. There was no lack of rumours of what might have happened to Mary around the town, and around Ireland for that fact. Locals in the town said they spotted a red Volkswagen in the area that day, and when they seen it, it sped off. And this was strange, as no one in the village drove a car like that. I wonder if this car had anything to do with Mary's disappearance, or was it just a coincidence? There were also rumours that Mary was abducted and murdered by Robert Black. He's a Scottish serial killer who was active in the UK and Ireland at the time of Mary's disappearance. Witnesses even said they spotted his van at a bar in Donegal at the same time Mary disappeared, and that there was crying heard from the back of his van, but Robert Black since has been totally ruled out.
The terrible spectre of Robert Black, serial killer, paedophile, hung over the Mary Boyle case for a number of years. Thought that as he had worked in Northern Ireland, Scotland and the south of England, delivering posters in a marked company van during the period in question, he was employed as a van driver from 1976 to the end of the 80s, that he may have been responsible for the disappearance of Mary Boyle. It's such an unusual crime, the kidnap and abduction of young children, that whoever has been convicted of a crime like that is immediately placed as a suspect for all other missing cases, including Mary Boyle's case. After the conviction of Robert Black for the murder and abduction of Jennifer Cardy, he again was brought into the frame. But a geographical analysis of this scene and this location tells us that was not possible. Robert Black was not responsible for the disappearance of Mary Boyle. There were 3 cars spotted that day, and each one was noted and identified. At the time, cars were a rarity. Also a rarity were marked company vans. And even today, any time from this height, and this is the same height as the Gallagher homestead over there and the Macaulay homestead there, these are the equidistance between the last place where Mary Boyle was seen alive. You can see it's just simply unrealistic that Robert Black could have got here and snatched her. The nearest road is about 400 or 500 metres away, but it's a country road and everybody can spot a fresh, unusual car. No car was spotted that day. He may have been around major towns, conurbations, but he had no business up here. That simply didn't happen. In addition, although this is a very isolated place, there were witnesses surrounding this particular crime scene. We had 2 fishermen, poachers, who were well-minded to watch and keep an eye on every bit of traffic coming and going. And they were over that direction, about a mile away, Lake Columkill. The Macaulay household, the only other access to this bit of land, and they would have witnessed anybody coming or going, and they've got a long driveway. You've got the Gallagher homestead over there, and there's about a half mile to 3/4 of a mile drive up to their homestead, even to get access to that land. It's just simply not feasible that Robert Black could have used his normal MO to come and snatch Mary Boyle and take her away. Yes, he was at it. He was a serial killer during the time frame. Yes, he was in Northern Ireland, but no, he was not responsible for the disappearance of Mary Boyle.
Anne Boyle, which is Mary's twin sister, along with the whole town, believe they know exactly who done it. Anne said it's very unlikely a stranger done this, and all signs point to a familiar face and a person well known to Mary. And she believes Mary was the victim of abuse and she had to be silenced before she told anyone. The person Anne suspects to be responsible for the murder hasn't been named in public for legal reasons, but they were the chief suspect in the early days of the case. I think most people can put two and two together. In 2016, Anne was involved in a very controversial documentary called Mary Boyle, The Untold Story. This explored the theory. It was made by the journalist Gemma O'Doherty, and it was posted on YouTube and then taken down. However, it can still be found on YouTube to this day. The documentary made claims of political interference in this investigation. It claimed that a high-up politician had prevented the Gardaí from pursuing the chief suspect in the case by making a phone call. But of course, this was all denied. Anne Boyle, the mother, believes there is not enough evidence linking the chief suspect to the case, and she believes that Mary wandered off to a nearby town where she was looking at a toy a day previous. But Anne Jr., Mary's sister, she expresses publicly her belief that this isn't the case. This led to the pair falling out for some time, but are since back in touch with each other. So what's happened recently with this investigation? Anne Boyle and her distant cousin and daughter of Daniel O'Donnell, Margaret O'Donnell, have still been active in trying to reignite the investigation. A man was questioned in October 2014, but he was released the following day without charge.
The new lines of evidence have emerged which have led us to where we are here today, in that a man in his 60s was arrested this morning in relation to the kidnapping of Mary Boyle in Donegal in 1977. That person is currently detained here at Mullingar Garda Station and is currently being questioned in relation to that matter.
Well, I knew instinctively that something untoward was going on.
Around the time Margot O'Donnell and Anne Doherty were becoming vocal again, Brian McMahon was arrested about the case. When Mary disappeared in 1977, he was a young soldier in Finner Army Camp outside Ballyshannon. Abandoned by his mother as a child, he had grown up in state institutions and in a foster home in Cashelard, where he was subjected to severe physical abuse. His foster mother had been deemed unsuitable to look after children. As an adult, he received compensation from the State Redress Board. In 2013, Brian McMahon was convicted of indecent assault after allegations were made against him of offences dating back to when he was a teenager. He says he is innocent of the charges. At the time of his arrest for the Mary Boyle case, he was serving a sentence in the Midlands prison in Portlaoise.
They wanted to interview me in relation to the disappearance of Mary Boyle. They were waving the warrants over everybody else's head. I was in a state of shock. I wasn't able really to talk at all. I just turned around and I said to the officer, the officer in charge, I said, "Not at all," I said, "officer." I says, "I never had anything to do with that child's disappearance."
When Mary went missing, Brian McMahon was a soldier at Finner Army Camp outside Ballyshannon, about 12 kilometres from where she disappeared. He believes he was on the camp the day she vanished. He did not know Mary Boyle and had no car, but it was put to him that he walked to the Gallagher's remote farm, managed to abduct the 6-year-old from her family and take her away on foot.
They brought me to Mullingar Garda Station, and I was almost certain that I wasn't going to make it, that I was going to in the verge of a complete breakdown. They would place the siren on top of the car, and they were going at an enormous rate. I felt that was a little bit intimidating. They just suggested that I arrived on this particular road, and lo and behold, they said, there was your prize catch on the road. I thought it was a despicable statement to come out with, The following night, I was placed into a car, an unmarked police car, and I believe that was for the purpose of a member of the press to get a picture. They were determined to get a confession from me. They were, of course. But I knew that those two guys themselves knew 100% that I wasn't the man they should be looking for.
In 2015, the DPP decided that charges would not be brought against Brian McMahon in relation to the Mary Boyle case. Former Sergeant Martin Collins was one of the many people in Donegal and Sligo alarmed by the arrest of Brian McMahon.
Well, the first I heard of it was when I saw it or being on RTE, and I didn't know the particular person. As I said, 39 years ago since Mary went missing, I didn't know the particular person, but certainly that name never came up in our original investigation.
Do you believe it is possible that he had anything to do with Mary's murder?
Impossible.
As of now, Anne Jr. is fighting for an inquest into the disappearance. The grandparents' cottage, which used to have so much life, is now abandoned, and it's left to rot. The case is still an open investigation. I believe Mary is still out there in the bogland, and hopefully someone, sometime will come across her. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any suggestions into other cases that I can cover, you can send me an email directly, or you can leave it in the comments. Until next time, I'll see you later.